My friends, happy Saturday, everyone. The New England Patriots may have a problem they simply cannot afford to ignore before the regular season begins, and it all comes down to one position that can completely change the outcome of a football game: the kicker. Andy Borregales had a night to forget in the Patriots preseason matchup against the Colts, missing 3 field goals in a game that ultimately ended in a tie. That is the part that immediately stands out, because missing 1 kick can happen. Missing 2 is already concerning, but missing 3 field goals in the same game, especially when one of those misses came after the Patriots had driven into position to win, is the kind of performance that forces a team to stop and ask some serious questions. And that is exactly where the Patriots find themselves right now. Borregales finished the game making only 2 of 5 field goal attempts, although he did connect on his extra point attempt and successfully made a 52-yard field goal. Still, a 40% field goal performance is obviously not what New England expected to see. The misses included attempts from beyond 50 yards, and the most painful one came late in the game. After the Patriots moved the ball down the field and got into field goal range, the opportunity was there to win the game. The offense had done its job. The pressure was on the kicker, but Borregales missed the 49-yard attempt, and instead of walking away with a victory, New England finished with a tie. That is why this performance deserves attention. The strange part is that what happened in the game does not match what Borregales had been doing throughout training camp. Before this preseason game, he had actually been one of the more reliable players during practice. On August 11th, he reportedly went 5 for 7, with both misses coming from beyond 50 yards. That is not perfect, but there is nothing shocking about missing some difficult kicks from that distance during camp. And just 1 week earlier, Borregales had been perfect. There was also a practice in which he went 7 for 7, including successful kicks from 49 and 54 yards during a 2-minute drill. That detail is important because those situations create pressure. The clock is running, the kick has consequences, and the player has to perform with everyone watching. During training camp, Borregales had repeatedly shown that he could handle that kind of pressure. That is what makes this latest performance so difficult to explain. The Patriots trusted him enough that they did not bring another kicker into the competition this year. Last season, there was a battle involving John Parker Romo, but this time the team entered camp with confidence in Borregales. There was a reason for that confidence. He had already shown that he could make important kicks, including a 50-plus yard field goal against the Buffalo Bills in Week 5 that helped the Patriots win the game. So the question is not simply whether Andy Borregales is a bad kicker. The numbers from last season actually tell a very different story. He missed 2 extra points against Miami in Week 2 last season, but after that, he did not miss another extra point for the rest of the year, finishing 53 of 55. On field goals, he made 27 of 32 attempts, giving him an 84.4% success rate. He was 23rd among qualified players in field goal percentage and tied for 15th in made field goals. Even more importantly, he was perfect on all 4 of his attempts from 50 yards or more. He missed 5 field goals during the entire season. Now, in 1 preseason game, he missed 3. That comparison makes the situation even more interesting because it suggests that 1 bad game does not automatically erase everything Borregales had already accomplished. In fact, there is another reason not to overreact. He had already experienced a rough moment last season when he missed 2 extra points in the same game, and yet he recovered and became a reliable kicker for the rest of the year, so there is evidence that he can bounce back. But at the same time, the Patriots cannot simply pretend that the 3 misses never happened. Head coach Mike Vrabel made it clear that he was not happy with the performance. His message was straightforward. The team expects those kicks to be made because that is professional football. While mistakes are going to happen, 3 missed field goals in 1 game are simply too many. And there is another factor that makes this situation particularly important. Borregales is currently the only kicker on the roster. That means there is no real competition inside the building right now. If he has another difficult performance, the Patriots do not have another kicker already on the roster ready to step in and immediately create competition. That is why bringing someone in for a workout could make sense, even if New England is not ready to replace Borregales. The idea would not necessarily be to cut him. It could simply be about creating pressure. Think about what happened with Joey Sly in Tennessee. During training camp, the Titans brought in other kickers, including Younghoe Koo, John Hecker, and John Parker Romo, putting additional pressure on Sly. Then, when game action arrived, Sly responded by making every field goal he attempted, including 3 kicks from beyond 50 yards. That does not prove that competition will automatically fix Borregales' problem, but it does provide an interesting interesting example for the Patriots. Right now, Borregales knows there is no other kicker on the roster competing directly for his job. Bringing someone in for a workout could change that atmosphere immediately. Suddenly, every practice kick would carry a little more weight, every miss would matter a little more. And if Borregales has the competitive mindset the Patriots believe he has, that pressure could potentially bring out the best in him. At the same time, there simply are not many attractive veteran options available. The names discussed include John Parker Romo, Graham Gano, Daniel Carlson, and Young-Ho Koo, but bringing in another kicker would not automatically guarantee an upgrade. The Patriots have to decide whether they want to make a change, create competition, or simply give Borregales another opportunity to show that Thursday night was an isolated bad performance. And honestly, that may be the biggest question heading into the next game. Borregales has already proven that he can make difficult kicks. He has already shown consistency during training camp. He has already made an important 50-plus yard kick against Buffalo. His numbers from last season show that he is capable of recovering from a terrible game and becoming reliable again. But now the pressure is different. The Patriots are approaching a point where every preseason opportunity matters, and the next game against the Philadelphia Eagles could become another test. If New England faces a 4th and short situation around the 37 or 38 yard line, the coaching staff could have a chance to see exactly how Borregales responds after one of the worst kicking performances of his young NFL career. That is where this story gets really interesting. Is Thursday night going to be remembered as nothing more than one terrible preseason performance that Borregales quickly puts behind him? Or did the Patriots just discover a weakness that they need to address before the regular season begins? What do you think the Patriots should do right now? Trust Andy Borregales and give him another opportunity, or bring in another kicker to create real competition? The Patriots now have a very simple challenge in front of them. They need to find out whether Thursday night was an isolated disaster or a warning sign that cannot be ignored. Because the truth is, there are reasons to be concerned, but there are also plenty of reasons to believe Andy Borregales can recover from this. That is what makes this situation so difficult to judge. If we only looked at the preseason game against Indianapolis, the conclusion would be obvious. 3 missed field goals is unacceptable, especially when one of those misses came with a chance to win the game. But if we look at the bigger picture, Borregales has not suddenly become an unreliable kicker overnight. The Patriots had been watching him throughout training camp, and what they saw was very different. He had been making kicks consistently. He had already gone 7 for 7 during one practice, including kicks from 49 and 54 yards. He had also gone 5 for 7 on another day, with both misses coming from beyond 50 yards. That matters because those performances are the reason New England entered the preseason without another established kicker competing against him. The Patriots had confidence in him, and that confidence did not come out of nowhere. Borregales had already demonstrated that he could handle pressure during his rookie season. He made a game-winning 52-yard field goal against Buffalo, and his overall numbers showed that he was capable of being a dependable player at the position. He finished the season having made 27 of 32 field goal attempts, an 84.4% conversion rate, while also making 53 of 55 extra point attempts. So when you put all of that together, it becomes difficult to say that one preseason game proves the Patriots have to move on from him, but it also becomes difficult to say that the Patriots should simply ignore what happened. That is where Mike Vrabel's reaction becomes important. Vrabel did not try to pretend that 3 missed kicks were acceptable. His message was essentially that these are kicks a professional player is expected to make. At the same time, he also understood that mistakes happen, and that the important thing is how a player responds afterward. That may be the most important part of this entire situation. How does Borregales respond? Does he allow 3 misses to affect the next practice, the next game, and eventually his confidence? Or does he treat the performance as a bad night, go back to the fundamentals, study the film, and start making kicks again? Borregales himself indicated that he was not trying to change anything. His answer was that he needed to go back to work, watch the film, and return to the basics. And honestly, that is probably exactly what the Patriots need from him. Now, there is no reason to panic after one preseason game, but there is also no reason to sit still and assume everything will automatically fix itself. That is why bringing another kicker in for a workout could be such an interesting solution. The Patriots do not necessarily have to sign that player. They do not necessarily have to create a full-blown competition. They could simply bring someone into practice and let Borregales know that the position is not completely guaranteed. That kind of pressure can sometimes be useful. Look at what happened with Joey Sly in Tennessee. The Titans brought in other kickers during practice, creating competition around him. Then, when game action arrived, Sly responded by making all of his field goal attempts, including 3 from beyond 50 yards. That does not mean the exact same thing will happen in New England, but the example is interesting. Maybe Borregales does not need to be replaced. Maybe he just needs to know that someone is standing behind him, ready to compete for the job. Because right now, the situation is different. He knows he is the only kicker on the roster. There is no established challenger next to him every day. There is no veteran waiting for an opportunity if he misses another kick. That can create comfort, but it can also remove some of the competitive pressure that exists at almost every other position on an NFL roster. And the Patriots cannot afford to discover in week 1 that they should have addressed this earlier. Think about how many NFL games are decided by a field goal. A team can play well for 3 hours, move the ball, play strong defense, and then have the entire result come down to 1 kick. That is exactly why the kicker position matters so much. If the Patriots are going to trust their offense and defense to compete in close games, they need to know that their special teams can finish those games too. And that brings us back to Borregales. He has already shown that he can make big kicks. He has already shown that he can bounce back from mistakes